Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back for another glorious slime video. Yeah, I know. The month of March has been kinda ass, alright? Even I have felt it. I have not had a lot of motivation to do slime videos this month. Coming off of the Overlord meta and the disappointment there into this meta, of which I did not really enjoy. It's been a down month for me, for my video metrics, analytics, all that, and I'm sure a lot of the player base is kind of like, let's take a break, let's go do something else. And to what? That's totally fair. I cannot blame you. I was a little burned out too. But it is time to do the monthly tier list because while I didn't enjoy the team, I certainly did use it. And I have thoughts. So we're going to express those thoughts here today. But let's start easy first. We're going to go with the free-to-play Gobta. He is easily S tier unit. He is the first free-to-play unit that has an alt swap ability. You can take that anywhere. It is not team limited like Nabe or Diablo or something like that. And then he has a green orb change into blues, which again, you could take anywhere on a blue team. Like, this Gobta is actually a gigantic leap forward in the quality of free-to-play characters that we've received. Like, Yom, really good because he's got Vengeance. Trya, really good because she's pure orb changing ability. Isis, old character, first anniversary character, still to this day one of the top. And then Geld has a lot of value with his orb change and his orb giveaway. And then Water Rimuru has, again, more pure orb changing, the same line as Trya does. Gobta now brings that utility of normally summonable units having an alt swap. And while it is a single alt swap, and it's not zero cost, it is still an alt swap and a stacking pierce resistance down, which, on certain teams you may or may not actually get usefulness out of that, but it is still a free-to-play unit with an alt swap and an orb change that is not limited to specific teams. So, in that reason, he belongs up in S tier, and I will, honestly, I will not hear arguments on it, right? I don't care what you think. I think Gobta's S tier. Let's move on. Protectors. Alright, so this month is a prime example of what happens to a team when the Protector is kinda dumb. And dumb as in bad. Not really that good. Trya is a power-crept Bride Mirren, right? How often do you see Bride Mirren get thrown around nowadays? Not much, alright? Follow-up orbs are an interesting gimmick that came out last year. What did Treyni do to follow up on that? She's a blue team now, so she gives extra points to blues. Alright, Mirren gave extra points to greens. Fine. The follow-up, the damages were not, upped or anything. Mirren actually did it for 2 turns. Right? Her follow-ups were 2-turn lasting, and that actually, I think, let me go check that real fast because I got the game open. In which case, that would make her a little bit better. Could be wrong, though. No, it's 2 turns. Yeah, it's 2 turns. So that makes her better in that aspect. And then she gives guaranteed crit to magic characters. Treyni is giving a guaranteed ult to the highest attacking unit, which I would say is probably a little bit more impressive, because you can get an EX ult for free on turn 2 if you play it right, which is not something you can generally say about a team. And then she adds that extra 30 skill point passively for the first 4 turns or so, which is cool. I mean, it's what New Year's Blessing Xion does, and that's part of what makes her so good. I don't like Treyni. I don't like the follow-up orbs. I didn't like Mirren's team. It had Sokka, and they did her so dirty. Bride Sokka is not a good character most of the time. Bride Shun is really good, but that's her own viability. She's got the triple ult steal or orb steal. Like that's good anywhere. You don't need Bride Mirren for that. Treyni, when are you going to use her next? Like, she'll be good in this Jubilee that's currently going on right now, and she'll be good in like 2 months when they make us use a fire DPS character for like a Jubilee normal stage. Kind of like what they did actually this month in this Jubilee, where Normal Battle 2 was more tailored towards getting an EX ult in 3 turns, and the best way to do that with a fire character is to rush the shit out of it with Treyni. This stage and any iteration is really the only time you're going to have value in Treyni now, because she's not going to be good on another team. Follow-up orbs are not inherently good, and even Mirren's light follow-up orbs, they're type neutral, right? If you go up against a water stage or a water enemy and you use fire follow-up orbs, they're going to be type at disadvantage, so they're going to do less. So that's already not good. I don't like Trya. This is the aspect of what happens when good units are put with a bad protector. I think Treyni's kind of a bad protector. I'm gonna put her down into B tier. I think that's the lowest I've ever put an EX protector. It might be a little bit too unfair because of the ability to alt rush EX alts and stuff like that. It's just that I don't see her having overall lasting value for like a bunch of content, right? It's not like I can slap her on any team like I can Rimuru or Xion and be like, lead it, do it, make it good, fix it. Like that's not Treyni. That's not what Treyni's gonna do. She's gonna get you an EX alt. Cool. What else you got? Like an EX alt by itself with nothing else to do it is not really that good. An EX alt with Xion, guaranteed crit, guaranteed synergy, and oranges. So most of the time you got multiple EX alts or a lot of alts at least. So I don't see her being useful. I'm sure I'll catch a lot of flack for this ranking, but I also am aware that a lot of people also don't really care for this protector. Treyni's hot, all right? I'm about to go meet her Japanese VA next weekend as of recording this video on the 30th. I'm going to go meet her Japanese VA, and I will tell her none of that. But I don't like this unit. And by virtue, because Sokka is just a free-to-play light version of her, she's not really that good at all right? Her and free-to-play Aaron are essentially the same, so they will belong in the same tier. But if I don't like her, I'm not going to like you. I love Sokka as a character. I don't love Sokka as this protector unit. All right? And now we have the battle units. First off, we have skill-fused first anniversary Rimuru. Where was he originally? Where is he? Oh, he's all the way down. Situational at best. I would move him up into B tier now with his skill fusion. All it did is it took his crit and crit damage skill and gave it to more people. So it originally, like, he gave everybody crits regardless, but then he only gave dark character crit damage. Well, now he gives dark characters and Tempest Elite characters crit damage, of which there are a lot of Tempest Elite units. It's the biggest team in the game by far, and while it's not full of, super powerful units, it is a lot of them. So he gives the ability to have crits and crit damage to a lot of the game, and I think that's an upgrade. So therefore, I will upgrade him a tier into B, so can be helpful. His second skill really gimmicky, and it doesn't matter, but I think this was at least a decent upgrade. It gave him more viability on more teams, and that's what's important. And now, the battle units. We'll start with Shuna. She is the most limited of the team because she's got a Pierce buff, which Pierce is not the most damaging multiplier in the game. Even with the 30% Pierce power and it being 3 turns, it's not that much of a difference in damage from your normal. It certainly does more, don't get me wrong, and it does last for a long time. It's still not like a super good buff. And then her second orb change ability is dependent on having Tempest Elite units, which again we just talked about. There are a lot of them of varying degrees of usefulness. So I'm gonna put her in A tier next to Ainz. Decent but limited. If you can build a team around her orb change and you can build, at least maybe 3 units of Tempest Elite and 2 that are not, you can make it work. And it can be successful. And she does fully convert the entire field, regardless, as long as you're on Tempest Elite. And that is incredibly useful. But it does restrict you into very limited team building opportunities. And, if we get more Tempest Elite characters that are really good EX characters in the game, that will only raise her value in the future. But for now, A tier. She's not terrible, but she is limited. Next up is Benimaru. So Benimaru is actually really, really good for most blue teams, all right? He's got this 40-point physical buff and then alt resistance down, which means that he's really good for single target situations where there's only one enemy and you want one big, strong physical nuker to come in and just lay waste. This is a good skill, and it's very cheap. And it's, we've done testing, we've done the science, And in a single target situation, this skill is better than the Fount of Wisdom Rimuru skill, because the alt resistance down is more effective than another 15% physical attack and 20% physical resistance down. In that scenario, this skill is better, and it's half the cost, which means it's much easier to work around. His second skill is a special convert, which by itself is nothing new, but he has a 30% gauge increase, not 10. Nobody does 20. We do 30% to all gauges, and that cannot be underestimated. Benimaru, and then also he has a skill point trait, which, can be helpful in certain situations. I think Benimaru is a fantastic unit. So I don't think he's tippity top tier, but I think he is really, really, really good. So where's Fount of Wisdom Rimuru? Is he where did I put him? There he is. So he's with Fount of Wisdom Rimuru. He's more geared towards AoE physical. Benimaru is more geared towards single target physical. They're relatively comparable, right? You do more on an AoE because there's 3 targets. You've only put the alt resistance down on one enemy. If you put it on everyone, it'd be like a 55-point skill or something like that. It'd still be really good. He is really, really good. So he's going to exist in the really, really good tier. And I think he'll be fantastic because we will always get blue teams and we will almost always get physical units. It'll alternate like almost every month, right? So he will have value in the coming months. Probably. And then we have the final unit. Rimuru, dressed up as Shizu. Now, I'm aware that for a lot of the time I have been putting his kit wrong. So initially when I looked at him and when I did all the videos, I kept saying that he had a team-wide weakness strike buff. No, he only does it to himself. So he is the epitome of selfish DPS character, right? He gives his own weakness strike. He gives himself attack. He gives himself a massive alt damage buff for 25 points. This is a really, really good DPS character that you can then build a team around and make him look even better. And that's essentially what DPS characters want, is they want to shine, and by shining, you have very cheap, very high value buffs. The burn, it can be useful in certain situations. I'm not really, in March in April or May of this year, I'm not probably going to use him for the burn, if at all. But it is kind of a nice cherry on top of the cake. The weakness strike, if you put him on a stacking team and he does a type advantage, you can get a lot of use out of this because it is a relatively cheap skill, right? And then he's got 100% alt damage, 30% attack for 25 points. That's impressive. His actual trait, Pierce Power up, whatever. We've already discussed how Pierce Power is not the super best thing in the world. But he is a very competent single target damage dealer. So he requires a bit. So I would put him in decent but limited next to Shuna. And I know that may be slighting, but I'm looking at him now, and I'm looking at him in the future, and always with this game, it has been confirmed over years that the first units to drop off and lose value are the selfish DPS characters. Because when is the next time we're going to need a fire DPS in like a mainline meta, not some random single Jubilee stage? Probably not for like 8 months or something like that. Like, it's going to be a long time before I'm like, oh man, I should put Rimuru on this and now we can beat this beatdown battle. Like, I'm looking not at just today's inherent value, but in the future value. And I don't see a lot of value for him because he's not bringing anything to the table that other teams in the future can really benefit from. He's not bringing anything, actually. Like Jeanne, right? She's a very, very strong single-target DPS. She also gives the entire team 100% alt damage. And Primal Demons get another 70% on top of that. And she's got space resistance down, which helps her and any other space unit. That's a hybrid DPS support character that you can put on other teams in the future, and she will bring value. I cannot put Rimuru on the Visions of Coleus team and be like, alright, do your job. So, that's not what he's built for. He's built to have a team around him. And if you can't build a team around him, he's not going to really look that good. And if you try and use him as a supplement to build a team around somebody else, he's not going to do anything, right? Because he's a selfish DPS character. So he is good. And he will be good in the specific situations that you need him to be. Other than that, he's not orb changing and giving everybody ults and giving Dark Allies attack. He's not orb changing, giving ults and giving everybody crit. He's not alt swapping, giving weakness strike and alt resistance down. He's not stunning. He's not triple orb stealing. He's not physical buffing and orb changing. He's not healing and guarding and attack lowering for Valor Cup. He is just damage. And if that's not what you need on a team in 2 months' time, because you already have damage, why would you bring this Rimuru? So those are my thoughts on him. This might be controversial. I think people will have a lot to say about the placement of Rimuru and probably the placement of Treyni. This is how I feel, though, and I'm trying to look ahead into the future on viability on multiple teams. And these characters bring value on multiple teams. He brings value on one team built for him, specifically in really 1 or 2 fights. And that is it. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Have at it. Tell me I'm dumb. But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I will see you all later.